What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and as we all know, at least if you pay attention to stuff from the Xbox news side of it, Microsoft announced the Xbox Live Games Pass about a week ago. And what the Xbox Game Pass, I should say, is the exact name of it. And what is it? Well, it's a subscription-based service that costs €10 or $10 a month, and it gives you access to more than 100 Xbox family games. Now, I will say this, okay, as soon as I heard about this, I'm thinking this thing is going to have 10 old Xbox One games and like 100 old Xbox Live 360 arcade games and just 360 games. So they came out and published a list anyway, and I waited a few days to talk about it, but I'm here now talking about it anyway. So what I'm going to do for this video is we're going to go through the entire list of, I believe it's 112 games, I think it is at the moment, and we're just going to talk a little bit about them just for a second or two each. It's just going to be nice and quick, because otherwise we're going to be here for 2 hours. So really quick as well, as I do want to mention that Microsoft have said that they want to keep it nice and broad and diverse, and that the Game Pass library is hoping to showcase a broad spectrum of titles and popular game franchises, including, say, action, adventure, puzzle games, shooter games, strategy games, role-playing games. So it's going to be changing, and of course it's going to be refreshed every month. So some games will be added every month and some games will be removed every month. So we're going to start first with the Xbox 360 backwards compatible section. All of these are, of course, playable on Xbox One, and let's go in alphabetical order. So, A Kingdom for Keflings. It's that free-ish game, kind of like me-style game that everyone was mad for a little while, that I never got into, never even tried it, to be honest. And A World of Keflings, which is the sequel, or one of which is the sequel to the other. I don't remember which it is. Age of Booty. Doesn't ring a bell whatsoever. Alex Kidd & Co. is the Sega Vintage Collection. Kind of fun little side-scrolling games, definitely worth a try if you're into that stuff, or you're old like I am. Banjo-Kazooie, enough said, it's the Xbox 360 port of Banjo-Kazooie. N64 Classic, enough said. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, very similar to, Banjo-Kazooie. If you like if you like Banjo-Kazooie and that style of gameplay, give it a try. Banjo-Tooie, the sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, so yeah, there's no point even talking about that one. Bionic Commando Rearmed 2, not a fan of that whatsoever. Liked the original Bionic Commando from way back in the day. Didn't play it way back in the day, but played it several years later, and then I was kind of a little bit hyped for Bionic Commando Rearmed 2, and it kind of let me down completely. Bioshock, Bioshock 2, and Bioshock Infinite. These are some good games. It's a great trilogy. Bioshock 1 being the strongest of the games, Bioshock 2 being a kind of a spin-off in a sense, made by a different studio, just kind of cashing in on the Bioshock name. Not a bad game by any means, but nowhere near as good as Bioshock 1. Bioshock Infinite, same deal as well. It's same deal as the first one. It's essentially made by, well, you could basically call it the same as group as the first one, and it's a pretty good game. Didn't like it on my first playthrough, went back 6 or 8 months later and played it again and enjoyed it considerably more. Borderlands, it's, well, I'm sure who doesn't know what Borderlands is at this point. If you like Destiny, Borderlands is better in every single way. If you don't like Destiny, give Borderlands a try, because it's a good version of Destiny. So Bound by Flame, kind of a low budget action game that kind of flopped and just faded into obscurity. Braid is a pretty highly recommended, not by me personally, I've never played it, but it's a highly rated and highly critically acclaimed indie game. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, maybe give it a try. Capcom Arcade Cabinet contains many old Capcom titles, so it's definitely worth a try if you're an old school Capcom fan. Castle Storm, doesn't ring a bell. Comic Jumper, same deal. Comic Zone, the old Mega Drive game that is a side-scrolling punch 'em up kind of deal. Somewhat akin to, I suppose, Streets of Rage would be the closest comparison. Dark Void, everyone wants to kind of stay away from Dark Void because it's supposed to be horrible. Never played it myself. The Blob 2, it's basically just, I don't even know how to describe the Blob 2. Defense Grid, it's a very basic arcade style game. It's kind of reminiscent of something you'd see back in the late 80s, early 90s in an arcade. Something along the lines of... It'd be the kind of thing you'd expect to see in an arcade with asteroids and, you know, millipedes, or millipede, centipede, and things from in along there. Dig Dug, a really old game from, say, the Commodore 64 era. God, I can't talk today. Which is actually where I know it from. I love Dig Dug. I have it on the 360, and I have it on the Commodore 64. Double Dragon Neon, a kind of a updated version of Double Dragon. Didn't play it myself, but we all know the deal with the original Double Dragon trilogy. One kind of gets a bit of a bad rap. 3 is also, but Double Dragon 2 is where it's at. We all know that. Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. I'm not sure which one this is, but if this is the Streets of Rage style side-scroller one, it's a great game. If it's not, I don't remember which one this is. Fable 3, I never liked the Fable series, but Fable 3 is, well, everyone knows what the Fable series is nowadays, so you're already going to know if it's the kind of game for you. Final Fight Double Impact, well, the Final Fight games were basically the poor man's Nintendo version of Streets of Rage, so it is what it is. Next up is Flock, never heard of it. Galaga Legions DX, it's basically Galaga but upgraded stuff. Gears of War, we all know what Gears of War is at this point. If you're a shooter fan, first or third person, give Gears of War a try. Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, also great games, definitely worth giving a try. Gears of War Judgment, I'd say play it just for the sake of it if it's on there. Well, just because of the fact that it's on there, and if you like the Gears games. It's arguably the worst one. It's not actually developed by Epic Games. It's developed by People Can Fly, and it kind of shows. It's not as enjoyable, but it's maybe worth a play one time. The Golden Axe Sega Vintage Collection. So if you like old school Mega Drive games, you probably already know what Golden Axe is. If you don't, just look as far as something akin to Streets of Rage and you know exactly what kind of game you're getting. Definitely recommend it. Grid 2, I'm not a racing fan, but I hear it's good. Hexic 2, I only have ever played Hexic HD, which was kind of a moderately enjoyable puzzle game that actually came with my 360 at launch. It was that old and kind of enjoyable, so definitely worth a try. IDAP, is that a P or IDARB, never heard of it. Iron Brigade, same deal. Jetpack Refueled, most people basically avoid it like the plague. Joe Danger Special Edition, no, just no. Joe Danger 2, the movie, again, same deal. Joyride Turbo is supposedly a little bit of a kind of fun arcade, waste 5 minutes style game. I've never played it myself, but that's what I hear about it. Cameo, it's an old school style. I say old school, but it's kind of like it's trying to emulate the Nintendo 64 era of games, and it is an Xbox 360 launch game. Wasn't a big fan of it myself, but yeah, it might be more along the lines of your taste. So King of Fighters 98 Ultimate Match, it's an old school Neo Geo fighter. I'm not familiar with which versions of the King of Fighters are good or bad. It's very polarizing. Some of them, like, you'd have an excellent one year, and then the following year you think it would be better and built on, but then apparently the next year they completely fuck it all up and change it. So King of Fighters 98, chances are if you know which ones are good, you probably already have this. Lego Batman the video game. I mean, what's there to say? It's a Lego game. Apparently they can be pretty decent. The Lego Batman humor is supposed to be pretty good, so it is what it is. The Maw, never played it myself, haven't heard much about it. Metal Slug 3, we all know what Metal Slug is. It's an old school arcade / Neo Geo game. Great fun. I have it on my Nintendo Switch, and I have the Anthology collection on the Nintendo Wii, and I have Metal Slug, I think it's XX on my 360. So yeah, Metal Slug games are always fun. There's not a bad one. Just some of them aren't as enjoyable as others, but there's definitely some good games. Metal Slug 3 is one of the better ones as well. The first one and the third one are usually considered the two best games. Monday Night Combat, let's just skip that one, trust me. Missplosion Man, if you're into, it's kind of a I don't know what the best way to describe it is. You think of it as a platform game with a minor bit of puzzling in there as well. MX vs ATV Reflex. It's a bike. It's like a motocross style game. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. N Plus is a decent puzzle game. It's a decent indie arcade puzzle game. More fun than it should be because some of the deaths and the aftermath in it is actually pretty good. Neo Geo Battle Coliseum, I'm actually not familiar with that one. Operation Flashpoint Dragon Rising, I hear, is absolute garbage, which is really disappointing considering the original Operation Flashpoint back on PC way back in the day was phenomenal. Ahead of its time, really. Pac-Man Championship Edition DX Plus, well, it's Pac-Man. Pac-Man Museum, again, it's Pac-Man. Perfect Dark Zero, much overlooked and often criticized game, but it's provided me with ridiculous amounts of what's the word I'm looking for? Ridiculous amounts of enjoyment during the first maybe year of the Xbox 360, so I'm not going to say a bad thing about Perfect Dark Zero. Hasn't aged well though, especially if you haven't played it before. Sacred Tree, apparently it's not as good as Sacred 2, but it's kind of a hack and slash style mythological game. Sam & Max Beyond Time and Space, I'm not a fan of that. Sam & Max Save the World, again, it's more of the same basically. Samurai Showdown 2, old school Neo Geo fighters, more samurai style ones than say beat 'em up like King of Fighters. Well, beat 'em up that's a bad way to describe it. King of Fighters is more realistic in the sense of the actual fighters, whereas Samurai Showdown is samurai era fighters and stuff like that. Soul Calibur, if you have a PlayStation 1 or just really anything beyond that, you know what Soul Calibur is. Soul Calibur 2 HD, same deal, Cervantes for life. Spelunky, it's kind of a, what do we call it, indie platformer is the best way to describe it. Splosion Man, it's basically Miss Splosion Man. If you like one, you like the other. Stacking does not ring a bell. Streets of Rage Sega Vintage Collection, one of the best games ever made and easily one of the if not the best series in the genre of the side-scrolling 3D playing beat-em-ups. Streets of Rage games are fantastic. Streets of Rage 1 and 2 especially. 3 gets a bad rap, but again, it's nowhere near as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's just not as good as the first two, which are stellar games, so definitely worth giving out a try. Tekken Tag Tournament, if you're a Tekken fan, that's probably for you. Personally, I haven't played an enjoyable Tekken game since 3. Toy Soldiers and Toy Soldiers Cold War. It's kind of what's the best way to describe these? Third-person adventure game, almost, in the style of Toy Soldiers and Toy Story, essentially. Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown, it's a beat 'em up, you already know if you'd like that based on Virtua Fighter or not. Viva Pinata and Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise. The best way I can describe those is if you've ever played a Pikmin game and even moderately enjoyed it or enjoyed something similar to it, that would be the game for you. XCOM Enemy Within, not a huge fan of the console version, but XCOM is a great series. So that actually lasted really long. Going through all those. We'll move on to the Xbox One games. There's actually less on the Xbox One section. There's just over half of what there is on the 360 one, and these ones should be pretty easy to go through as well. So as far as the Xbox One titles go, Blood Bowl 2, apparently it's been panned. It's basically a sports game what is based on the old Warhammer spin-off tabletop game, but apparently Blood Bowl 2 is absolute garbage for the actual video game version. The Book of Unwritten Tales 2, it's kind of a small, almost indie adventure game would be the best way to describe it. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, basically the same as Unwritten Tales 2. The same style game as that. D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die. It's supposed to be one of those kind of psychological games. I actually have it, but I've never played it even once. And I kept putting it off, but if you have a Kinect, it's definitely, apparently at least, definitely worth giving it a try. If you don't have a Kinect, it's probably still worth giving it a try, but apparently it's much harder to use without Kinect. Defense Grid 2, it's the sequel to Defense Grid 1 that was on the 360 version. If you liked it, there you go. Devil May Cry Definitive Edition. If you're into new school Dante, this is your remastered version with your probably better frame rate and higher res textures and all that stuff. I haven't enjoyed a Devil May Cry game since 2, but it is what it is. So Electronic Super Joy, never even heard of it. Farming Simulator 15, it's Farming Simulator, you know. It's going to be one of those polarizing games. If you're into Farming Simulator, that's probably your best option. If you're not, it's probably not your best option. Gears of War Ultimate Edition. If you like Gears of War or third-person shooters, that's probably definitely worth a go. Probably definitely. How does that work? Personally, many people consider it the best version of Gears of War 1. I actually disagree with someone with probably thousands of hours spread across all the Gears of War games at this point. I would say that Gears of War Original Edition on PC is still the best version of Gears of War 1 to this day. The controls really let it down in Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Even on PC, Ultimate Edition is not great. So, at the Golf Club, if you like golf games, there you go. Halo 5 Guardians, big enough title with Halo 5 Guardians. It's the most current, up-to-date mainline Halo entry. I personally used to play it a considerable amount of time, and I've been trying to get back into it for a Warzone Firefight. Halo Spartan Assault, it's a mobile game that's been ported to PC, tablets, and Xbox One. It's a twin-stick shooter. IDARB, again, no idea. Jump Jet Rex, basically everyone just kind of writes it off because it's... No, let's just forget about it. Night Squad, I actually don't know what Night Squad is. I don't know what Cube is. I think Cube is a puzzle game. I'm almost drawing a blank on it. Layers of Fear is one of those first-person horror games. I actually have it on PC and Xbox One for that matter. You get it for free with Games of Gold 1 month. And I've still never got around to playing it. By the time I actually got around to buying it, I had kind of fell out of the first-person survival horror genre. I'm waiting to get back into it, get back to Outlast 2 and Layers of Fear. So we'll see how it goes when it comes around to it. But generally those kind of games are pretty decent. Lumo, doesn't ring a bell. Mad Max, if you like GTA style games that are even... Most people only like GTA when it comes to that style of game. If you like ones that aren't GTA, but you still like big sandbox games with a lot of driving customization and customizability, apparently Mad Max is possibly for you. Massive Chalice, it doesn't ring a bell. Max the Curse of Brotherhood is supposedly so bad that we all just completely ignore it. Mega Coin Squad, that also doesn't ring a bell. Mega Man Legacy Collection, well, it's the original Mega Man games, and we all know that Mega Man 2 is nowhere near as hard as it actually is made out to be. So I just think all those 8-year-olds in the 80s suck ass. I played Mega Man 2 for the first time last year, and I finished it in one sitting. That's sarcasm, by the way. I actually did finish it in one sitting, but I'm being sarcastic when I'm saying those 8-year-olds suck. So, NBA 2K16, well, it's a basketball game. If you like that, you like that. Ollie Ollie, it's one of those things that I don't understand why people like it. Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition, skip that game completely. It's a wannabe Left 4 Dead with microtransactions and broken promises galore. Pumped BMX Plus, if you like cycling games, and not just cycling games, but like BMX games, it's probably for you. Resident Evil 0, good game, excellent HD remaster, so it's definitely worth a try. Roundabout, doesn't ring a bell. Saints Row 4 Re-Elected, I wasn't a big fan of the Saints Row games, but if you like Saints Row 2, 3, or 4, then that's going to be one for you. The main reason I say that is because Saints Row 1 is very, very different to 2, 3, and 4. Scream Ride, one of the things actually shown off as a launch title. I don't know if it actually launched as a launch title, but it was that whole, what would you call it, roller coaster kind of deal. It basically flopped. That's the best way I can describe it. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, if you like old school 2D platformers, this is possibly one for you. Sturndeen, I don't remember that one. Strider, we all know what Strider is. If you've played a Mega Drive, you know what Strider is. Sunset Overdrive. Sunset Overdrive is another style of Crackdown type game, or you could even argue it's a GTA style game, but it's just really colourful and over the top in an almost Saints Row style, so you could possibly give that one a go. Super Mega Baseball Extra Innings, if you like baseball, it's probably for you. Super Time Force, I know the game, but it's completely drawing a blank on it for me. The Swapper is one of the bigger indie games to come out on the Xbox One. Didn't really like it too much, but it got a decent following, so that could be for you. Terraria, if you like scrolling 2D Minecraft, then Terraria is for you. WWE 2K16, or if you like wrestling games or WWE games, that's for you. So this video, holy shit, this video is 20 minutes long. When did that happen? We're going to leave it there. What do you think of the Games Pass? Do you think the titles offered on it are good? Do you think they're bad? Do you think they're worthwhile? Do you think it's worth €10 a month? Because for many people, it probably is. Rather than just buying one game for 60, 70, 75 euro, you can get access to over 100 games for €10 a month. Granted, some of them will be taken away and some of them will be added, but it's a nice optional service for people who prefer Netflix style things rather than actually buying and owning a physical copy or a digital copy indefinitely, basically. So what do you think about the whole thing? Is it worth it? Are you going to try it out? Have you already tried it out? Do you think it's a great idea? Do you think it's a terrible idea? Whatever it is, let me know all of that in the comments section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter. Details in the description below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.